Hello, everybody. Tonight is UFC 298 taking place in Anaheim, California at the Honda Center. A lot of great history has taken place there in the past, but tonight it is an unbelievable card for the UFC. UFC 298, the headline at the top of the card. It's an incredible main event. It's headlined by the reigning, defending, undisputed UFC featherweight champion Alexander the Great Volkanovski taking on Georgia's own and Spain's own Ilya Topuria, the Matador. That one should be great. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But to start off the card, the first fight of the main card is a good one in its own right. It's Anthony Hernandez taking on Roman Kopylov. Kopylov took this fight on short notice. He's the betting underdog in this fight at plus 190 to minus 285 for Hernandez. Both of these guys have each won their last four fights. Kopylov has four straight knockouts, and Hernandez has two straight finishes. This is an incredible matchup to start this main card, and in this middleweight division, this is a good one because if whoever gets this victory, they should be set up for a lot of success in the future. They're both riding a couple, fight win streak. Whoever wins this will be riding a 5-fight win streak for say, and this one is going to be a great one. It's kind of a grappler versus a striker matchup. Hernandez is better on the ground, as we know, and Kopylov is really good standing up. He has a firepower in those hands. That should be a great fight to start the show, and it kind of seems like that fight, it's easy to bet that one won't go the distance. One of the guys will get the finish. It's safe to say that. And I think that Anthony Hernandez is going to submit Roman Kopylov in the second round. If I had to pick, I think he'll get it done inside the distance. And Anthony Hernandez is just an intriguing and really great prospect for this middleweight division. But moving on, the second fight of this main card is an incredible one. And it might be the second fight that I'm looking forward to the most even on this card. But the next four fights we're going to go over, they're all unbelievable fights. And in this fight, it's former flyweight champion, former bantamweight champion, and former Olympic gold medalist. That's Triple C, Henry Cejudo, who's coming off of a kind of a little bit of a down performance. Then when he suffered a loss back in May against Aljamain Sterling, former bantamweight champion, it was a split decision. Cejudo thought he won. I thought it was more of a dominant performance from Aljo. Kind of used his backpacking technique there for most of that fight. And Cejudo just really struggled to me early in that fight to kind of just excel because he was facing such a bigger guy. And I think that's what happens to him a lot is when he fights, the bigger guys, I think he struggles to maintain that distance, but this is a better matchup for him going against Merab Dvalishvili. Merab is one of the best prospects and non-champions in the UFC. He is unbelievable. We know what he did the last time we saw him months ago against Piotr Yan. He just dominated him from start to finish. He is just unbelievable. I do think Merab will be a future champ, but it seems like this one will be a close one. I think this one will go the distance. I know Merab is the favorite in this fight at minus 270 of what I'm seeing now to a plus 220 of Henry Cejudo, but I'm going to go with Cejudo to win this fight. I think he's going to get back in the win column, make one last run at the bantamweight title because he said 100% if he loses this fight versus Merab, then his career's over, his fighting career's over, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I think this is going to be a war of a fight. This could be the best fight of the night. It has that written all over it, has very high potential for a great one. But I think Henry will get the job done, even though Marab is just a killer in there. He's along with Ilya Topuria. He's another fighter from Georgia on this card, and I think Marab is such a talented fighter, but I just think Henry needs this one a little more, just because of his career winding down at this point. And I think I lean Henry. Another big reason is due to his experience, because in big fights, he has that experience. He hasn't, this is his first non-title fight, and I believe over 5 years at this point. All of his last 6+ fights have all been for a title. He's used to fighting for gold, and if he wins this fight, I think the winner of this fight, no matter who wins, will get a title shot. It seems like Marab could have got one, but didn't want to get in Aljo's way. I think he made the right move, because it kind of worked out that, Aljo did suffer that loss, but it seemed like his time was winding down at bantamweight, and now Marab can take that run to the title. But if Henry wins, and say that Sean O'Malley wins in March and beats Chito Vera, that is a massive fight. That's the biggest box office fight that the UFC can make in the bantamweight division right now. I just think Henry has the experience edge, and I think he's going to get the job done. Henry's a winner at heart, and I just think the layoff really didn't do him justice. He was off for over 3 years when he stepped back in there with Aljo. I mentioned the height advantage. Marab's a little bit smaller, still 2 inches taller. But, yeah, I think this is going to be a close one, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than the odds may say, because for Marab to be over a 2-1 favorite, it's just too big to me. When Marab did beat a really good fighter in Petr Yan, but for me, the jump from a guy like Petr Yan to fighting Triple C, one of the best combat athletes of all time, that's a big jump up in competition. We'll see how Marab fares. I think he will do good, but I'm going to go with Henry there. Like I said, the third fight from the top features another unbelievable prospect for the UFC. It's Ian Machado Gary, who's from Ireland, but now training in Brazil at Shoot Box. We know Charles Oliveira trains there as well. That's where Gary's wife, Layla's family's from, and now where his son has family from there. But he's fighting Jeff Neal. This is an intriguing one. They were supposed to fight back in August in Boston. That one got canceled due to Neal pulling out due to injury. But we know everything that's been surrounding Ian Gary in the recent months. He himself had to pull out just a couple months ago in December due to having the flu, I believe. And now he gets matched up with another Neal. Last time it was Neil Magny. This time it's Jeff Neal. And I think this is the hardest test for sure of Ian Gary's young career. He hasn't fought a guy as battle-tested as and just as talented. Jeff Neal does have power in those hands. He is a really good striker. He's been in there with the best of them. He took Shavkat Rakhmonov just a couple months ago to his limits, it seemed like, who is in his own right. Shavkat's one of the best prospects in this sport. But Ian Gary is the favorite in this fight at -245 to +200 for Jeff Neal. I'm going to go with Ian Gary to not only win this fight, but I think he's going to get the job done inside the distance. I think he's going to knock out Jeff Neal. I think he's due not only for a dominant performance, but a performance where he shows how good he is and that he should be fighting for gold very, very soon. And I think that's going to be the case just in a couple hours here tonight. He has the 4-inch height advantage over Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal does have a 1/2-inch reach advantage, but I think this fight will stay on the feet, and Ian Gary is just a better striker in my opinion. His jab is great. His leg kicks are elite, as we saw against Neil Magny. He dropped him a couple times with those leg kicks, and yeah, I think it's going to be intriguing, not only during this fight, but after the fight. I think he's going to make a big call out. I think it's going to be Colby Covington. That's a fight that I really want to see. That would be just for Ian Garry to test himself at the highest level against a former interim champion in Covington. But yeah, I think this fight is going to be a really good one. I'm going to go with Garry because of just how long he is and just how he's grown in each of his fights. It seems like he keeps getting better. He keeps visiting different gyms around the world. He's not staying, stagnant. He's not only visiting one place or hearing one person's or one team's opinions. He's now in Brazil. He seems like he found his team that fits him well. I'm gonna go with Ian Garry to get the job done here, and let's go to our co-main event of the evening. This one is unbelievable. It's former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Robert Whittaker. Bobby Knuckles is taking on Borrachinha Paulo Costa, who hasn't fought in over a year and a half at this point. Costa's had a lot of things go against him. He had an elbow injury. I believe he had a staph infection or another infection that forced him to not compete. He was supposed to match. He was matched up with Chimaev a couple months ago. That fight never happened, but the last time we saw him was in a bloody war when he fought Luke Rockhold in Rockhold's last performance. And Paulo Costa before that lost 2 straight fights and won his last one. He's trying to break back into the top 5, trying to get back into title contention, and this is the perfect opportunity for him. But he's facing a Robert Whittaker that is very, very hungry. He's the betting favorite at -235. Costa's the live dog at plus 190. And like I was saying, Whittaker is a guy that's coming in just as hungry as Costa is in this fight because he's coming off of a brutal knockout that he suffered by the hands of the current middleweight champion, Dricus du Plessis, back just a couple months ago in July, I believe. That was a nasty scene. It was hard to see Whittaker like that. Whittaker said he valued or didn't realize the power, per se, that a guy like du Plessis had in his hands. But he said he's not underestimating Paulo Costa. Costa does, like du Plessis, have unbelievable power. He is just electric every time he's in there. He puts on a show. He puts on a great performance. But he looks really good. He didn't struggle with the weight cut as he has in the past. He made weight on time, early. Robert Whittaker did too. He looks really good coming into this fight, very confident. This was really a toss-up to me, and kind of just like the Henry versus Merab fight, I really just have been going back and forth on it all week of who I'm going to pick. Both of these guys are veterans. Like the Henry Cejudo versus Merab fight, it's a former champion versus a contender. And in this fight, I'm going to go, just like I did in the other fight I was talking about, I'm going to go with the former champion and Robert Whittaker. I think Bobby Knuckles is going to get back on track. I think he's going to try to make his case to get some revenge on DDP in the near future. And if he could win this fight, he's back there in title contention for sure. I don't think he'll get the next title shot. I think it'll take one more. It seems like Izzy probably will get the next title shot, but I think he would put himself in a very good place. But literally the last 4 fights on this card, I could see any 8 fighters winning the fight. It's really just unbelievable. But yeah, I'm going to go with Whittaker in the co-main event. And the main event, let's just get right into it. This is the one we've all been waiting for, the one we've all talked about for months on end now. We have the champion, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, to me, the greatest featherweight of all time in the UFC, taking on the Matador, Ilia Topuria, the pride of Georgia and Spain. He is as cocky and confident as I've seen a young up-and-coming fighter heading into their first title fight in a long time. He's 14-0. He's coming off of a dominant victory over Josh Emmett just a couple months ago. I believe he 10-7'd him in a round. He was just that was unbelievable. One of the best overall striking performances I've ever seen. But as I said, for Merab, from going from Petr Yan to Henry, the same remains true. Going from Josh Emmett to Alexander Volkanovski is just a different level as a whole. Volk is a killer, is just an unbelievable fighter. His ground game has gotten better. His takedown defense is unbelievable. And I think a lot of people are doubting Volk and are just being too critical based on his last performance. I know his last fight he lost. He got brutally knocked out, but he took that fight on a couple days' notice against Islam Makhachev, who is the lightweight champion and one of the best overall fighters in the sport right now. And after he lost to him, which was a very close loss last February, he came out, he knocked out Yair Rodriguez. And at that time, everyone was hyping up Yair. Yair was the, young, exciting fighter. He was the interim champ at the time even. And I think this is a spot where I think Volk's going to what he said on his YouTube the other day is y'all must have forgot. And I think that's gonna reign true tonight, is that everybody likes to hype up the young, exciting prospect. This time it's Topuria. But don't forget, Volk's been touted many times before. He's fought young, exciting fighters. He beat Max Holloway, who right now is a first ballot Hall of Famer 3 different times. He beat Brian Ortega when he almost got submitted. He beat the Korean Zombie. He's beat so many guys in this division. He's almost cleared out the top 5 of the featherweight division. And I think this fight will be a little different. I think this will be his toughest and hardest test in the featherweight division. But I still think that Alexander Volkanovski will defend and successfully defend his featherweight championship. I think he will successfully defend his UFC featherweight championship at UFC 298 tonight. I think Ilya is a pressure fighter. Volk is too, but Volk showed that when he's on the back foot, when he has another guy pressuring him like he did Yair Rodriguez, I think he showed that his counter-striking is very elite. His ground and pound is amazing. I think Volk will try to mix in a couple takedowns, as we saw him do against Islam even a couple months ago. But yeah, I think Volk's experience factor is going to be very important in this fight. And I think that he's going to get the job done. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. UFC 298 is tonight at 10 p.m. on the East Coast. And thanks for watching.